back to the beginning on this rather than start with the question we got asked during the Q&As
What was that?
about, I suppose, Bauhaus architecture or socialist architecture. Actually, no, it's quite close to the beginning of where I want to start anyway, so we'll do that.
Ah,
What's that?
we have people joining us. Can you see that?
I see.
Hello, person.
Oh,
15. Okay, great. I hope it looks very nice and mysterious today. We're trying a new thing. Do you want to explain what we're doing today?
yes. Today we're going to talk about architecture, my architecture today, its origins and philosophy and what's going on, and I'm going to have the imagery for it in a slideshow, but the first slide in the slideshow is actually black. So that's what you're looking at. You're not looking at nothing, you're looking at black. A first screen, which is black.
What I wanted to say as well, though, because of this brilliant software that is still advertising itself in the corner, you'll probably see, I can see your comments and questions. So while Dad's giving the slideshow, you can still put questions in, and when Dad comes up for air, I'll put them to him.
Right. So it looks about time. It looks about 7 o'clock. So the
Should we put an image up so people aren't worried that this is the whole... People are saying it's very small. This isn't the video. This isn't... It's going to be... da-da-da-da.
well, even that
slideshow,
isn't.
really.
Even that isn't. That's just when I started at art school, Canterbury College of Art, barely 17, I didn't really have much confidence in what I was doing, but I was pretty sure pretty soon that what we were supposed to be doing, which was designing stuff to go in a box, making boxes for people to live in, I wasn't confident I liked it. In fact, I was pretty confident I didn't like it. And amongst my school friends who were very interested in things futuristic, they didn't equate the modern movement in architecture as futuristic. Well, actually, some did, but most didn't. They like me, were brought up on Dan Dare and other comics where the future looked a lot more interesting. And I queried what we were doing and basically saying, why are we designing boxes for people? And the answer I got on numerous occasions was form follows function. And when I said, yeah, but what function requires a box for human beings? And they referred me to the Corbusier and the Bauhaus. And I was told to read it. And I did. And it gave me no hint whatsoever that Corbusier gave a damn about human beings in the sense of the spaces they were in. His motivations were entirely political. He and his comrades, wanted to build a utopian future where everyone lived in identical boxes. Sadly, everyone didn't want to live in identical boxes, so it was troublesome. Corbusier had enough clout to get some of his identical boxes built for the working classes, and guess what? They didn't like them. And it was, to me, not in the least surprising. And no one had done any research into what actually makes a good space for human beings to live in. So, having been told to study the Bauhaus and form follows function, and especially read on Corbusier, I felt it was not giving me any answers that worked at all. However, at Canterbury, I had no scope for doing it. And I thought if I went to architecture school, I would learn there, or I could at least do the research there about what kind of spaces worked for people. My tutor Mike Knott, who I have mentioned before in these talks, told me, don't go to the architectural school. They won't like you and you won't like them. My next thought was to do industrial design at the Royal College of Art. And he pretty much said the same thing. He said, Misha Black, who's head of that department, he won't like you and you won't like him. And that was, as it happened, it proved right, because I did come across him. We clashed on numerous occasions. He recommended David Pye, who was head of furniture school. And when I said I wasn't really keen to do furniture, he said, don't worry, David Pye's an architect, and if you can be convincing, he'll let you do what you want to do. That was pretty right. This first image is the designs for a sea urchin chair, because when I went to David Pye and said, this is what I want to do, I want to research this business about what kind of spaces people feel good in, he said pretty much, yes, but you're in the furniture school, you can do it, but you must at least do some furniture. So this was the first piece I did, and this is what it looked like built. For me, it was an interesting experience because I designed something that was made in thin skin polypropylene, but I didn't have the resources to make very expensive molds to make it. So I redesigned it to work in foam. And the now no longer existent design center asked if they could have a prototype to exhibit in a new exhibition of new furniture. And I said yes. What I didn't know was at the same time they were writing to the college, the Royal College of Art now, saying that they would like to exhibit this. And my department wrote back saying, well, we're very sorry, but we have no problem you exhibiting it, but it doesn't exist, and there's no way on earth whereby it could exist in time. So this correspondence went on in parallel, me saying I could do it, the college saying it wouldn't happen. But I did manage to get the prototype finished, and we did exhibit it. It did work, and it got a lot of publicity, which was very nice. This is a prototype. This is... where do I go to the next one? Okay. Right. This is somebody sitting in it. Actually, it's Lindsay Courtness, Sid Barrett's girlfriend at the time. And
I wonder if the sort of just the arrow will work, because I feel like people might be able to see that. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Well, we've shot away from the furniture. I did a year's research into asking people basically a whole load of questions about what kind of spaces they liked. I focused in at the beginning on sleep because it seemed to me that's where we are most vulnerable, most passive. The biggest reason we need a home is somewhere to sleep. We can do almost everything else elsewhere, but we need somewhere to sleep. So that's where I focused my research. And I did a year with no real success until a friend of mine asked a classroom of 8-year-olds. And they came back with very clear ideas about what they didn't like about the spaces they were in, what they slept in, and what they would like. Amongst the things they didn't like were hidden spaces under the bed, hidden spaces like clothes hanging on the back of doors, full-length curtains, anything that could hide a presence troubled them. And to me, that seemed incredibly obvious and eminently manageable, very easy to deal with. But it became much more interesting and much more tricky when we asked them what they wanted. We had people wanting galleons, people wanted castle turrets, people wanted tree houses, caves, tents. The response to what they would ideally like was huge. But we had one child who physically described a space. He wanted to be in a space where he could feel in the dark there was nothing there. He wanted an entrance to that space he could physically control and block. And he wanted that space to be above the ground sufficiently that he was at least at eye level with anyone looking in. So that was the first guide to what we were going to build. And these are drawings for the first prototype of a children's bed. And this is the first prototype. This was designed and built when I was still at college in 1968. And we refurbished it and exhibited it in 1990 when the person sitting next to me was sitting in it. This was a public space, by the way, and she slept there for hours. It worked incredibly well. Kids liked it. So I got the sense from this that it was going in the right direction, but there was a great deal more to making a home than a child's bed. So the first step was to see if I could extrapolate from this into making an adult bed, which had the same feeling, the same sense of comfort and security about it. And I looked and did an enormous amount of research into every other space in the house. Dining rooms, living rooms, corridors, attics and basements, everything. And this is the model I made of a house for my master's degree at the Royal College. And it's all cut away so you can see inside it. So it wouldn't be built like this. It would be built with proper windows and doors. But it was cut away so I could demonstrate how each interior space worked.
So what it would look like is sort of like all bubbles stuck together, like
that bit about it would look right, yes. So that's a dining room next to the kitchen on the left, dining room with a round table in the foreground, above it a bedroom. There's a bathroom on the top left, staircase going up to an attic space on the right, bedroom. A lot of the connecting spaces fascinated me, and I did a lot of work and research on that. This here picture, I'm going to go back to that I'll come back to it later. This is the workshop where we first built our first full-size prototype. So this is us starting to build.
What are we looking at, these shapes?
We're looking at fiberglass. I wanted to bear in mind what needs to be built here is the internal spaces. So what we're looking at is the molds, and the molds are to make internal spaces. So these molds are the external molds. These would be male molds in fiberglass and plaster.
Is that what they call them, male molds? And is it male molds and female molds?
Yeah, depending on whether the curve is convex or concave, yeah. So this is a mock-up of our first exhibition piece. We've made 3 altogether. The last one, actually probably the most successful one, was built on the back of a 40-foot trailer so it could drive around to multiple exhibitions. This one was made in bits and assembled and disassembled for each exhibition. Okay, so now this is where I can talk to you briefly about how we extrapolated from the child's bedroom into an adult bedroom. And one of the critical things about it was something I didn't know at the time we were doing the children's bed, was that the most effective way in terms of the comfort of the occupant was to make the stairs, and to make sure there were stairs, going to the sleeping space, and the stairs had to rise in a spiral, rising clockwise. And we knew from the making mock-ups and everything that it worked. When you made it the opposite way, the mirror image, it didn't feel comfortable at all. But at first I didn't understand why. But I later discovered via a Japanese martial art called Choku Jiu-Jitsu which is the martial art of fortress design, that they recommend that for the sleeping quarters in their structures because it's much more defendable than if it was either straight or curving the other way. And the logic in this is that anyone attacking with a spear or a sword essentially is off balance as they go up the stairs. Any defender is in balance. And in martial art terms, it was reckoned that this simple piece of architecture would give the defender the equivalent of 2 Dan ranks in terms of advantage, in terms of defending the space. And although most people wouldn't even think about that, it wouldn't cross their mind, they would feel the difference. They would feel this is safer. And that was really what it was all about. It was to make it feel good, feel safe, a place which you could be tranquil and relaxed in. And strange enough, the idea of it being a defendable space was critical to this sense of comfort. It's not just something humans, and particularly military humans, think about. All humans are aware of this, and most mammals are too. I read a lovely bit of research that showed a rabbit warren where rabbits could run down the warren, and if they were being chased by a ferret or a weasel, they could take a side tunnel that would bring them around and above the entrance. So the weasel goes in, the rabbit is above. The rabbit is dying of fright, is petrified. But the weasel doesn't like moving beyond the point where something is at the back of its neck. And the something is only a rabbit. But nevertheless, that something is enough frequently to make the weasel want to leave and turn around and go out. It's interesting because this applies very much to humans. When I have had architects particularly say, really can't make that much difference, I say, imagine you're at home reading or writing at your desk, and the only people around your home are people you love and trust and care for, and someone comes up and starts reading over your shoulder. You will feel uncomfortable. Sooner or later, you will want them to come in front of you and stop reading over your shoulder. We all feel vulnerable at the back of our necks, and we have many vulnerabilities, and making a space that you feel comfortable in is often very important to identify these and cater for them. So I'll move on from that.
Also, I want to say, by all means, ask questions. I'm noting them down, and we will get to the ones that I've spotted, just so you know. So do ask if you have a question, and I'll try and get it down.
So we built this one on the top of a 500-foot tower. Sorry, the clouds.
Should we find that laughter track that they've got in there?
This is actually clouds fitted in by courtesy of Photoshop. It was in a field. But you can see from this the shape of the bedroom. And this is the view from the bedroom. And you can get a sense of the curve of the staircase as well. When I was doing this research, we looked at all kinds of design features that made people uncomfortable and all kinds of features that made people feel good and feel comfortable. And I made a list of about 120 features that you can get in architecture that bothered people. Some of them very seriously, some of them less so. But nevertheless, about 120 design features that were to be avoided, and about 80 design features that would be a good thing to include if possible. And when we looked at this and analysed it, all the features that were to do with making people uncomfortable, etc., were essentially about defendable space. So the whole essence of this is to make very defendable space. And I would say that represented a big chunk, not easily verifiable exact percentage, but a big chunk of the design motivation in this was to make it a defendable space. The other aspect, let's say another 20%, was essentially aesthetic. And it did occur to me that aesthetics played an important part in people's sense of well-being, sense of comfort, and they had to be addressed.
We've had a couple of people asking, are there colours associated with comfort and security as well? I'm feeling calm. A couple of people asked that.
I stripped this down to not quite bare essentials, but very, very limited things, because I didn't want to cover it with decorative stuff and say that was the reason you may have liked it or someone else may have not liked it. I wanted it to be as basic as possible, but not in the same way that a lot of modern architecture is, in that it is stripped down to a minimalist design. And the minimalist stuff, by and large, is very oppressive. It's not humane. It's human storage of the most harsh emotionally possible. I mean, that's not good grammar there, but you get what I mean. The modern movement did not address human requirements at all. There is one or two things about it that are good. The amount of glass in new buildings is amazing, but the float glass that makes those big windows that you get in modern architecture didn't really exist when they were designing buildings like that back in the 30s. So the windows weren't that great then. All that you got was the box. And without that window, the box is really a prison. And the only thing missing is the keys. So back to colour. Colour mattered, but it was easy to address with light. I never bothered putting colour onto this because I wanted it to be as a blank a canvas as possible. But when we did the doors, I'll see if I can find a door.
Could you discuss light a little bit as well? Is there tones of light, or where should you put light for it to feel comfortable?
Okay, well that's interesting because the way the lighting works the best is if the light is in front of you, it's where you're going. Like in this picture, if you were going down towards the bathroom, it's brighter there. If you're going out of a bright space into a dark space, that does feel more uncomfortable, more threatening. So the ideal situation is the light source is always out of sight, but in the place you're going. And we lit the alcoves rather than central areas. And that worked very well, both emotionally and in terms of functionality, really.
There was a theory, wasn't there, that sort of overhead strip lighting mimics grey light, like outside, whereas having dispersed pockets of light is more...
Yes, it's definitely...
like natural, reflective sunlight in a natural environment.
Well,
something like that.
We're not trying to mimic a natural outdoor environment. We're trying to make a safe, comfortable, private space.
No, but the argument that was in the Joy book,
yes,
was that offices feel very depressing and oppressive and tiring because of that overhead block colour of light, that grey tone, that blue, that cool tone, makes people feel very lethargic for some reason.
I did read that, but I never read the research. I just read the conclusions. I mean, one of the things that I would say about this is that we got a very enthusiastic person on board on this project who wanted to demonstrate how wonderful and easy it was to light this with fiber optics, and we tried it. And everything about it was easy, except when the light travels through, 50 feet or 15 or 20 meters of glass, it inevitably comes out green. And that made it quite weird, actually. Not satisfactory. So these pictures are around the place, looking at it. So now you can see the doors. So you can see, although I said we were looking to keep it minimalist, I didn't want it to look science fiction-y. I wanted it to look more like it came from an arts and crafts ethos rather than sci-fi. Although I do think in many ways this could be a way of doing things in the future, because they can be, these buildings can be incredibly environmentally benign, both in their technology and in the way they work. It's incredibly efficient in terms of heating and in terms of cooling. The bed space, we managed to keep it at about, God, I don't remember what the, I still think in centigrade and feet and inches, but in centigrade terms, we managed to keep it just above 60 degrees with 200 watts of heating. And that was just the lighting. And that was when it was at 0 outside, when it was freezing outside.
60?
Hmm.
That's like a cooking temperature almost, isn't it?
You're thinking, I'm thinking Fahrenheit, not centigrade, sorry. When it was, we kept it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 odd in centigrade. So we kept it at a temperature where it was comfortable if you had a sweater on, when it was freezing, literally freezing outside.
Can I just say something that a few people have asked as well about how you'd put paintings on the walls? So I think this image actually shows quite well having something flat on the walls.
Yes. There's lots of flat planes in this. So making a flat plane for a mirror, for a door, for a window, for a painting is easy.
But also, when we were talking about it before, if you think about bubbles, where they connect is always flat as well.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Flat planes are fine. Big square paintings, we would have a different way of dealing with it. And we've gone into that because we do want to build a gallery come museum. So we've looked very carefully at how to do that effectively. But in a domestic home, there's plenty of flat areas, not many square ones.
Someone's saying they're imagining living with it, with all their junk. Me too, but just you could get inbuilt shelving and cupboards and space like that. I've got loads of stuff.
Yes, what you're looking at is a cupboard. And the white door, I can't remember why we bothered to paint it white. It may be that in one of the times it was stored, it got damaged. But the white door is the entrance and the exit of this. There's another, here's a separate door. This is from inside the bathroom, looking at a different door. So this door goes into the hallway. The door frames are ash, but the paneling, I don't know, I can't remember what that was. But it was good fun designing the doors. There's two mirrors in this bathroom, and of course, they're flat. They're cupboard doors designed to go with the curves. We wouldn't have that space underneath if we had time to completely finish every detail of this. We are planning to bring this prototype back to our barn and renovate it again. And we're hoping this summer to do that. And when we do that, we will finish off details at the space underneath there. This is the step up into the shower bath. And this is the bath. And this is the bath at night. Same place in daylight. So, this is a project. It was a project for a hotel complex. It was originally intended to go in Darling Harbour in Sydney. This was a long time ago, and our clients never managed to get it off the ground. But the design was done. And what I'm going to go through now is a number of drawings of different projects we're working on.
There's a really interesting comment here from Lee saying, beautiful curvilinear forms, but interesting to note that Roger's studio, visible behind you both, seems to lack any of the curved form vocabulary. Reminds me of how many modernist architects and designers choose to live their lives in more conventional spaces than they design in their professional lives.
Quite right. I mean, my ambition and our plan that we're going to talk through over the next few weeks is to build this on our site, to make it habitable, but to build a proper visitor centre, not here, somewhere else. Ideally, if all dreams come true, we do one in America and one in the UK, where people could come and stay, where we would have maybe 100 units, as well as a big exhibition and performance space. So this was, as I say, to be a hotel in Sydney. This was the cover for Steve Howe's first album, Beginnings. But it's also a design for an interior of a spa. And we have a plan now to build a spa, literally with 100 cottages, and as a sort of small holiday village as part of a bigger complex. And the spa would be an integral part of that project. This was a sports centre, and these were sports domes. And this is a village square for that sports centre. You can see one of the domes in the background. So it had a shopping and restaurant area here. This was an adjunct to the Darling Harbour project. This was apartments on the left, hotel on the left, apartments on the right. This is what the project would look like when it's partially earth sheltered. So the project that we're doing in the north of England, which is not for us, but our design, this is what a lot of it would look like.
It's also what it looks quite a lot like now, isn't it, with the trees growing out of the top of it and the wasp nest in the corner.
Shut up.
My friend's coming to sort the wasp nest out on Thursday. So
there you go.
We might keep the trees though, what do you think?
Yeah, I think why not? Keep the wasps, I would. This was a project which was a wonderful project if it ever happened. We were asked to look at the centre of Prague. After the communist rule, Prague was the various mayors. There were 9 mayors in Prague for different areas and an overall mayor. And they had an idea. They wanted hotels in the centre, but they didn't want to damage any of the existing architecture, which was a mix of Gothic, Art Nouveau, and Baroque. And I loved it all, and I could see why they'd want to not damage any of it. But there was a space on an island in the river, and we were asked if we would come up with some ideas. We were employed by an emerging economies fund, a bunch of lawyers representing a fund, and they asked us to go to Prague and have a look at the site and come up with suggestions. So these drawings were done for that project. And this was a sort of tipping of the hat to Wenceslas Square. Strangely enough, this was a project for Swallow Hotels, who wanted to build their corporate headquarters and hotel in the centre of Maidstone in Kent.
Cengiz wants to know what the project you were involved in Turkey was.
the project in Turkey. Hard to say. Yes, very confusing. Very interesting, very exciting, very exotic, and totally confusing. This was a design for a holiday village. Weirdly, we built some of this, well, we designed it and other people built it for an opera. And this was a church designed for a congregation. What's the name of those trees called? Joshua trees, near Joshua Tree Park. This is me playing with designs for doors and windows. You may gather that I am quite enthusiastic about making things decorative when it works.
I'd really like, for the one that we're moving, I'd really like to see if we can incorporate anything local into it. Because I was saying to Mum, like, one of the things that's really nice about driving around a country is seeing how the buildings change according to the materials that they use. Like the Cotswold cottages with the, yellow brick stones and the flint here and different things in different places.
All being equal, this would be plaster on the inside, like a great many buildings. It would then have gunite, insulation gunite, and then earth or ceramics, depending on where it was and how it was to be built. But we could build it equally in cob, which is a mix of mud, animal dung, and straw. But it would need protecting from the elements, so it would need a roof over that. So if it had an overhanging roof or thatch. Yeah, we could do that. And we could build it in, the external walls in brick and flint, like they are here. So that all those things are possible. This was for some clients who wanted us to build quite a big house on a mountaintop above Malibu.
Yeah, a few of you I really appreciate it when you do this, putting question for Friday before your questions. Thank you. We're still doing that. We're going to be doing the Q&A on Friday. So if you have a longer question that you want to ask that you don't know if will definitely get asked or answered in this session, put it in. And
Right.
or Lisa says, or a living roof. That's something that we're looking at as well, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I might have some drawings of that. These drawings vary in size this is a sketch from, I think this was done on A2 paper, which is 16 by 24, roughly, 16 and a half by 24, nearly 24 inches. And a lot are done in my sketchbook. The church was in a drawing in my sketchbook, admittedly very carefully done. Wasn't a sketch, really. And some of the plans were, the plans for the Malibu house were done at 96 scale. Yes, 96 scale, which is almost identical to 100th scale, which meant it was 1.5 meters, no more, nearly 2 meters wide. So I had a drawing board that was 6 foot by 3 foot when I did the very large drawings on. Now, of course, they're all done on computer, so it's academic. I still draw them. This is a much bigger project. This was for a lot of houses, several hotels, a theme park and a marina in Portugal. And again, we had I think the client for this was a Swiss finance company. Can't really remember. But in any event, the reason I can't remember is they never finally got it together. This was for a park in Malaysia, and they reckoned it rained every day at 2. Well, it may have not been on the button, but it did rain down there all the time. And it was near Singapore, but on the mainland of Malaya. And the idea here was to cover the roof in tiles in the pattern of snakes. So this is another one. And the idea being is it looked very colourful close up, but from a distance it blended in. So a great deal of reliance in these designs on ceramics. These were paintings I did as experiments in watercolour, actually. I think there's a couple of them.
Malcolm, I like Malcolm's question. Is there a hope that these can be made affordable as society needs better housing that provides all the benefits, including well-being, and your designs provide so much more than what is currently available? Sorry, I read that really quickly, but just in case it disappeared. Did you get it? Is there a way that these could be affordable housing for people, this architecture?
What makes housing unaffordable is not the cost of building. They could be, the cost of building houses this way would be no more than conventional buildings, and conventional buildings could easily be made affordable. What makes them unaffordable is there's too few houses for the market. If we built enough houses, the prices would come down considerably. But there's a kind of weird conspiracy with developers. They like the fact they can sell the houses very quickly at high prices. There's no incentive to make enough to make them affordable. But the simple answer is, on the cost of build, absolutely, these could be very, very affordable. It is a very simple way to build. Its architecture is normally built out of extruded shapes, bricks, concrete, whatever. These are molded, and as a consequence, the main structure has to be built in one go in a 24-hour period. And that doesn't mean 24 hours. It usually means 12. So from beginning to end, these houses are built in 24 hours. So they can be built quickly and they can be built economically. But it isn't just the cost of build. We could design. If I had my dream, I'd say we should demand better from people who plan and build in our cities. We could build places that are wonderful to live and affordable and in all ways a joy. And we don't. When I talk to architectural students, I say the problem is with architecture, you think it's a very rational process, but it isn't. You're taught architecture as a religion. It's taught as a fundamentalist and extremist religion with no tolerance for working outside the dogma. And it has delusions of rationality. It isn't really there. There's no reason we build like we build. It's not cheaper. It doesn't make people feel better. God knows why we do it. We need to start rethinking. The project that I've got up here now, which is for me a very interesting one, is I was approached a couple of years ago by people who wanted to build a permanent moon base. And the idea was to build it as a prototype in Hawaii, where they have the rock formations that are similar. What do they call it? I forget now.
Sorry, I was reading people's questions.
Okay. The volcanic rock in Mauna Loa is very similar to what is found on the moon. So they thought they could try out all kinds of building technologies there. And there was lots of schemes, domes and tubes. And I looked at them all and I thought, well, why are we building those? And it seemed to me that, I'll explain the reason I was asked to join the team. We will be building, if we build a permanent base on the moon, it will be a high-tech prison people will be the most isolated they've ever been in human history, and in an incredibly dangerous environment. They can be killed by the vacuum. They can be killed by the cold. They can be killed by the heat. They can be killed by moonquakes, by mini micro meteorites. Pretty much everything is lethal there. But they can also go crazy. And that was why I was asked to be there, was to make an environment which mitigated against people going stir crazy. It was a mental health issue. And what this is essentially a cave. And there are lava tubes, but I thought we could either build or build over a ravine and build into it. Now, building on the moon is tricky because the dust is... Oh, the rock is called regolith. I'd forgotten that.
Someone commented.
Ah, did they? Good, great. The danger with the dust from regolith is that it's not abraded like it would be on Earth. There's no wind. It doesn't get the sharp edges knocked off. So if you breathe in the dust, it would shred your lungs. So there's all kinds of concerns. But this was the idea, to build an atrium in a cave where you had multiple airlocks for all the accommodation, but you had central areas where you had plants, water, and you could build a habitable environment. By the way, on the moon, there's plenty of things you think there's none of, like oxygen. It's in the rocks and in the water there. So making an environment there that is sustainable is quite plausible, but you have to build the right thing. And tin cans and half domes, for me, didn't seem to cut it. And yet, it is the NASA approach. We had, by the way, at the opening conference of this session, we had lots of engineers, lots of academics, bunch of people from NASA, and the keynote speaker was Buzz Aldrin, and he finished his talk by saying, "Don't trust NASA and don't trust Boeing." And I thought, God, he's an iconoclast of the First Order.
I have a question about this. I think we talked about it before when you mentioned it. I went to a talk where they told us that the Five Rivers Dam in China, when they built it, was so heavy with water, it affected the turning of the Earth's axis slightly. Earth is much bigger than the moon. Has anyone thought what sticking a city in the moon would do?
Well, this isn't a city. This wouldn't even be a village. But I guess they have to work that out. Yeah.
Did that not come up?
Everything came up. And they've got people looking at all the environmental concerns. Mine is to make a safe environment for people living there. And, yeah, incidentally, worry about the other stuff.
Because, I mean, that stuff, that could potentially, like, just destroy all life on Earth. It would be the tides, and then it would be the, women, what do we do? How do we calculate when we're going to be cross every month? What's going to happen to the Earth without the moon? I feel like no one's taking this seriously.
It's not going to affect the moon. Well, it might ultimately if there's billions of people living on it, but we're not anywhere near that.
I feel like you're not the person to ask anyway.
You're quite right about that. Okay. If we go on, I think it goes into other things.
We're sort of out of time, really. We're 48. We had some really good questions that we might have to get to on Friday, I guess.
Oh, well, I'm glad. Yeah, let's do that.
Let me just see if there's any we can do in the last couple of minutes. Unless you want to...
I'm going to talk about this where you find the questions, all right? This is the drawing of the spa. And up on the hill of the cottages, the holiday accommodation, and the spa is here, wrapped around by a restaurant. I'm pointing. Of course, you can't see where I'm pointing. You can see the drawing. That is the spa.
Are you ready for the question? No. Are you reading these now? Are you reading? That's my job. If you read the comments, everyone's just going to be watching you reading.
I know. I'd never seen it before. Okay. Normally you have that.
Yes, it's distracting, isn't it?
Well, I'd like to revisit this next week. So there's plenty of other stuff I can show you. So consider this an introduction to the architecture.
Yeah, and also we're going to do the Friday Q&A. So I've got lots of questions down, and we'll go through your questions in the comments as well. So maybe our Q&A on Friday will be sort of architecture themed, I guess. Well, it definitely will.
It definitely will. Yes. Are we timing it? Is it the end?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's the end.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Have we got any other things? There's always something. Q&A on Friday. Yes, lots of people say things like, oh, if we miss one, where can we catch up? So there's three places, but the best two places to catch up on any videos that you miss are Dad has a YouTube channel just called Roger Dean, and that has every single live and Q&A all there, so you can catch up on any of the ones that you like. Also, if you go to the website rogerdean.com, that has all the videos too. So there's two places that you can catch up easily, and they're all in sequential order, chronological order. So you can go through them and find which one you missed.
Yeah.
Well, that was how the things we were supposed to say. That Friday.
Send in your questions, and you say Friday question on it.
Oh yeah, one more thing. I was really happy to see some of Dad's students here as well, which is really great. And like we said last time as well, if you want to be on the list for knowing first when we're going to put the second course up, email info@rogerdean.com.
Yeah.
And we'll put you on a list to notify you as soon as we have dates for that as well. So far it's been really good fun. I hope everybody agrees. But these are great too. And this has been really fun doing it this way as well, isn't it? It's been interesting.
Yes, I love it. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you so much for coming. We will actually, I should say this, we are going to bring the prototype back here, renovate it, and we're going to have to do a lot of work building a asset base of all the designs on computer, make 3D models, all kinds of things. And it does look like a great deal more than we can afford. So we probably go and do a crowdfunding thing for the architecture. We're going to get it moving anyway. But once all that's underway, we'll start that.
I mean, Mum and I were also discussing, like, if anyone wants some graft work and fancies, like, just getting cooked lunch in exchange for some labour. That is also something we're open to happening.
And I'm not cooking.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's brilliant.
See you on Friday.
Yeah, we enjoy this.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.